So is it active? Yeah, now it is active. Right, and we are sharing. So everything seems to be in order. So we are finishing today's lecture about the 18th century and about now we're speaking. We've spoken today about the technical collaboration, about politics a bit, about ships, and now we're speaking about the cultural influences. We've spoken about the English impressions from Russia in the 18th century. Try to see the good side of their reports, of their travel logs. But now we're going to speak of the Anglophilia in Russia at the time. To remember, Catherine II was a great Anglophile at the beginning of her reign and throughout most of her reign. And of course, that could not but impact the Russian cultural scene here in Russia. So the people, that's usual. People imitate what the people in power do, what their tastes and dislikes. You remember that, you don't remember, but I remember that in the 90s, lawn tennis became very popular in Russia. Do you know why? Because Boris Yeltsin was a great fan of lawn tennis. So tennis became quite prominent on the sports scene. And in Catherine's time, Novikov, an enlightened of the time, wrote that now, at the time, both men and women are trying to imitate everything English. Everything that is English seems good to us. It's excellent and fills us with enthusiasm. And one of such influences was the English landscape garden. And I think this is a phenomenon in culture that is actually worth mentioning. The English are known for a special type of landscape gardens. Well, a popular type of gardens at that time was the French garden as well. You can see the French garden, for example, in Arkhangelsk estate, not far from Moscow, where, oh, come in. Are you alive? Yeah, you probably shouldn't have come if you are. Yeah, we're still very happy to see you. Right. So the French garden is a regular garden. That's where you crop and trim trees to make them look like some shapes, right? You probably know this type of garden. So the French garden is where you subdue nature to the human power. You see that the nature here has been trimmed, cut, everything is very symmetrical, and you see that the gardener has worked on the garden. The English garden is slightly different. It has its own philosophy. An English landscape garden, a park, should look as if a human hand has not touched it. It should look authentic, natural, with curvy lines, but at the same time, there is a lot of work behind it. There is a lot of work for the gardener because he has to combine different shapes, combine different colors and tints of green. Well, look at this. This is a famous Stourhead Landscape Park in England. And it shows you all the good qualities of an English park. There is almost not a single straight line because in nature there are almost no straight lines. Everything is irregular. So what you see here is that there are several different tints and hues of green, like darkish green, lightish green, right? There are different trees. There are oaks. There are some coniferous trees like pines and everything. There are willows with their falling foliage, and there must be some body of water, a lake or a canal or something. And then the landscape must not be even. There should be some sorts of hills and hillsides, but there must also be some elements of, well, some buildings, of course. So some bridges, some well, constructions where you can dine or where you can retreat and spend some time in solitude, right? So some sort of pavilions inside it. And look at this, not a single straight line, not, well, all different shades. And it does look as if it is a piece of natural nature that that humans have not actively transformed it. But of course, this should look natural. One more example of a famous landscape park in Bath, in England. Look at this Palladian bridge. You will see that it was repeated in Russia as well. You just look at this shape, a beautiful classical shape. And of course, the same thing, right? A hillside, a body of water, and a lot of trees of different ages. Now, and this fashion was, bless you, this fashion was adopted. It was well, borrowed in Russia. And the first among those people who started to garden in the English fashion was Catherine II herself. As you remember, as you know, she led a correspondence with Voltaire, the famous French thinker and philosopher of the time. And in 1772, she wrote, J'aime la folie, le jardin à l'anglaise. Well, if there are people who speak French here, you can correct me. So she loves insanely English gardens. She loves them very much. And one of the first gardens that were designed like this was the Tsarskoye Selo in not far from St. Petersburg. It was designed by that John Bush gardener that we spoke about at the beginning of today's lecture, with a very nice surname for a gardener, but also by James Meader. It also has this big body of water. And in the middle, there is this man-made structure. This is a triumphal column to commemorate a victory in the Russian-Turkish War. There is a pavilion with the baths. And there are some exotic buildings like this Dutch house. There is an island in the middle of the lake, and it also had a sort of a fortress. So they enacted different battles on the lake. So there were boats who there was like this reenactment that fought wars against each other, and that was entertainment for the guests. But you could also go there and retreat yourself on this island. Then this is the so-called Turkish bath, built in the fashion of Turkish bath, so you could go there and take a bath. And look at this. This is what I spoke about. No, this is the Tsarskoye Selo. Again, the bridges, uneven path, different shades of green, right? Or for example, the famous English oak trees, a big lawn, and this body of water with some small, beautiful buildings. Then, of course, part of this English garden is classicism, these statues which make you go walk around and think about this life. This is also an English trend. Or for example, this, right? Again, a copy of a great classical statue with those buildings, with the body of water, with the willow overfalling. This is English. And this bridge, right? Do you recognize the bridge? A copy of a Palladian bridge here as well. And one more feature of an English garden are classical ruins, which of course there are no classical ruins, well, not, and of course no classical ruins here in Russia. There were no Roman or Greek ruins. So people would build them to look like ruins. Why? Because this is so romantic, so sentimental. You can walk around and think about ancient Greeks or ancient Romans and imagine that you are somewhere in Greece or in Italy. So these buildings were called a folly, F-O-L-L-Y. In English, folly is glupest, but it's also a pavilion that looks like classical ruins. So this is a folly tower in Tsarskoye Selo, which intentionally looks dilapidated, old, right, with the plaster falling off. Another folly in Tsarskoye Selo, right, a headless statue, broken columns, bricks looking from under the plaster. It is designed to look like this. Yes. Yes, it is. Well, I'm not. Yes. Well, I'm not. Well, actually, I don't know. But I think it does look like it should look like this. Look at this. It was intentionally painted like this. So this, even if it was partly destroyed in the subsequent eras, it still looks like the design. That's what they are designed to look. And then in Tsaritsino, you also see things like that. There are elements of the English garden in Tsaritsino as well. This bridge, and again, these paths. Then you see some elements of classical architecture on the shore of the lake, and well, uneven landscape, hillsides, and everything. One more folly, right? A grotto which looks old and crumbling with a classical statue. We can think about this life. Another bridge in Tsaritsino. And a folly in Tsaritsino. There is a folly tower in Tsaritsino as well that looks like a classical ruin. So the English gardens were very yeah, things like that as well. Uneven, yeah, right, yeah. Well, I don't know whether Kolomensky has ever been designed specially to look like an English garden. It might have a resemblance, but I'm not sure that there was an English garden intentionally built there.
Churches.
Well, the churches are there from times immemorial. But it does, well, sort of it resembles, I agree, but it's not, I don't think that they worked on this. And then I have on some later slides that the Russian nobility are gardening mad. So they invite English gardeners and they pay them just crazy money. And I think this is also our national feature. We like to spill out money on things that we love, right? And the Russian nobility had the money, so they paid the English probably even more than they actually deserved. No, we'll never know. But of course, the English were struck by the amounts of money that the Russian nobility paid them. So a favorite architect of Catherine II was Charles Cameron. And he also worked on Tsarskoye Selo, where he built buildings that also resembled, in a way, this classical architecture. So this is Kamironova Galeria, Cameron's gallery in Tsarskoye Selo, which is a multifunctional building. You could eat here. You could also walk and spend your free time here. So this was designed to walk around and also to think. This is a gallery itself. So you pass through the gallery. There are busts of famous Greek classical masters, classical orators, and classical philosophers. So you could walk, eat, enjoy yourself, talk with people. And another building that was built by him at the time were the agate rooms. I went there in 2023 and I took pictures. Some of the pictures here will be mine. So this is also a multifunctional building. It's not quite clear for us how practically they were used. They were just spaces. Nowadays, I think we're coming back to this idea of spaces that you could use for various purposes. So one of them that you could rest there after taking a bath. You could just walk inside, and the agate rooms, they are all designed in this dark red, purple color, right? So different stone mosaics, niches, these beautiful ceilings with vases of the same color. Yeah, again, spaces for relaxation, reflection, communication, and partying as well. And the English also designed a landscape garden in Pavlovsk, where the heir to the throne, Paul I, lived until the death of Catherine II. And Pavlovsk, if you look at it from a bird's eye view, you'll see that it also has this English garden, which has largely, of course, overgrown, but I think nowadays they're trying to restore it. And this is the quotation that I want to show you. The Russian nobility are gardening mad and willing to pay 100 Great British pounds per annum for an English gardener, writes in his letter James Meader, well, the royal gardening. The Russian nobility are gardening mad. So, what else was the cultural influence from England to Russia? It was in painting. And the English portraiture in Russia, which was a representative of sentimentalism, trying to show you the transient feelings and emotions on the faces of people, also some transient emotions of sadness and joy, and to show how fleeting these moments in people's lives are. Well, for example, this is a proper English portrait by Sir Joshua Reynolds, a famous portrait painter, called Lady Elizabeth Delmay in 1780. And I give you an English painting and then a Russian painting to show the influence. So, for example, Sir Joshua Reynolds, look at this, look at the colors, look at the posture and everything. And here is a portrait by Dmitry Levitsky, Empress Catherine in the temple of the goddess of justice. And you see that there is some sort of this influence, right? She is shown as a just, enlightened empress who also has her military fleet behind her, but she is also amiable and she promotes, she has this glory of victories symbolized by the eagle with the laurel branch. But she's also just herself. She is the symbol of enlightenment and philanthropy. Another portrait by Thomas Gainsborough. Look at the colors. Look at the roses. The faded rose. Well, rose symbolizes in that time female beauty because it is so fragile, and it's also very transient, right? It fades very soon. Portrait of Sarah, Lady Innes. And another portrait of Mr. and Mrs. Andrews, also by Gainsborough. That's an English portrait. But now look at Borovikovsky's portrait of Maria Lopukhina, also a famous one in the Tretyakov Gallery. Look at this. It also shows this influence. The same shade of color here in the colors, in the flowers. Look at her expression. I call her a Russian Mona Lisa. Yeah, kind of, because her look, it's yeah, if she's smiling or not, and then her look, it's sort of mysterious, cunning. We don't fully understand what she is thinking about. And you also see that rose. You see the two roses, the faded rose. Unfortunately, she died very soon. By the way, she died quite young after giving birth to her child, and she also had tuberculosis, and she died of this. But you also see the English oak tree as something, right? So this shows you the influence. And what else? Russian borrowed some items of luxury. So, for example, the English were famous for their china, for their porcelain, and this is service with a green a set, a dinner set with a green frog, which was purchased by Catherine II. This is an enormous dinner set. I think there are several tens or maybe hundreds of pieces in this set. And all of them, so she bought it for Tsarskoye Selo, for her dinners in Tsarskoye Selo. This is fine English porcelain. And each piece contains a green frog. Why? Because the name of Tsarskoye Selo before that in Finno-Ugric meant a frog village or something. So like a symbol of Tsarskoye Selo, the succession from old Finno-Ugric, from an old Finno-Ugric place, there is this green frog. And well, this is the end of this lecture, and this is all that I wanted to tell you. And I think we are doing quite well. We are approaching the 19th century, and we are doing fine. So now you see why I called the subheaded this lecture "Ships, Alliances, and Gardens," right? As a sort of a collective name for this lecture. So do you have any questions?
So the service, dinner set, they borrowed it from the Indians.
They didn't borrow it. She bought it. She paid for it a lot of money.
So
Yeah, it was designed by a famous English Wedgwood company. Wedgwood is a brand of English porcelain. No. This is about Tsarskoye Selo, the old name of Tsarskoye Selo. Okay, good. Well, thank you very much, and then I'll stop the recording here.